Ariel Show. I'm Ariel. Happy Thanksgiving to those of you who actually care and celebrate that, which is only a small percent of my international viewers here at the Ariel Show. Today we're talking all about vulnerability hangovers. What are they? How can we get past them? What does that look like? And let me start out by saying something kind of intense. In my opinion, vulnerability hangovers are an unavoidable part of living a fully engaged life. It's just par for the course. It's just what happens when you are really putting yourself out there, when you're really connecting with others, when you're living life at full volume, you're gonna feel like you have a vulnerability hangover. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with that term, I think it's a Brene Brown thing. She, I believe, introduced this concept of vulnerability hangovers, and it basically means that you share a lot, you put your heart on your sleeve, you give something to the world, and later you kind of feel like maybe it was too much. If I'm being honest, I have felt that way probably 99% of the time that I've been an artist. This is what I do. I share something, I'm like really excited about finally getting this new part of my soul out in the world, about finally saying something, and then I wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning freaking out. And I'm worried that it was too far, that I overshared, that it wasn't appropriate, that I am offending people, that I upset my parents, that I made a big mistake, that I'm gonna look back on something and regret it. Happens to me all the time, like for real. And so I've just learned now to embrace it, that it's gonna come, and that helps me, that self-awareness, knowing before I put something really personal out there, I'm gonna have feelings of fear and of uncertainty and not knowing 100% for sure, was this the right thing to do? However, I also have been an artist for a minute now, and so I've seen how much sharing and getting vulnerable has connected me with strangers and made a connection that wasn't there previously. And so it's almost like I've learned that the person who says it first, like the person, like we're all having this human experience, and the person who can put the right language on that through like a lyric or a poem or anything else, and the one who says it first, who says it best, who says it most authentically, like that's the person that people will resonate with. It's such a sacred human transaction to offer your heart up on your sleeve and be like, this is what I look like, this is what I feel like, I don't know if anyone else is having the same experience, but here's what it's like for me. And then you have so many people coming out of the woodwork and saying, yes, me too. And speaking of that, I was thinking about the Me2 movement as I was putting together this episode, you know, how brave women and men stepped forward at the beginning. And I guess the Me2 movement's been around for 10 years, so it didn't just start on Twitter last month, but it did obviously resurge, and now we're thankfully creating a space where there's a little bit more support and understanding for the women who do come forward, and I hope that we're educating ourselves about, oh my God, why didn't she say something earlier? Oh my God, why didn't she just quit? Or whatever it is. Because now it's a talking point, and so we're all understanding this issue better, and we're feeling less alone. And so those women and men that need to come forward have hopefully a little bit more of a supportive environment to do that in. And that started with a few brave souls who didn't have that environment, and then they helped create it. And that's what's so important about sharing your story and about talking about taboo topics that people just don't address. I personally owe so much to the brave humans that have come before me and shared their experiences through their podcasts, through their books, through their albums, through their lyrics, and made me feel more understood. And it's like, I gotta pay it forward. That's my job. And all this has been really heavy on my mind extra as I prep for the release of my first book ever, Turn Your Pain into Art. This thing goes available for pre-order December 1st, so a week from when this episode is released. And you guys, there have been so many times, I told you this a couple weeks ago, so many times where I have felt fear and uncertainty, wondering, did I say it right? Did I share too much? Did I not say enough? Should I have gone further with this? Did I go too far with this? And that is par for the course. I'm telling you, it goes hand in hand. And there have been a few things that have helped me reframe this to feel a little bit more comforted in this situation, and that's what I'm going to share with you real quick. One of the most powerful things that I've come across has been to think of my sharing my story as a form of service. Think of your vulnerability as an act of service. Just like I mentioned, I have personally benefited from all the people that have come before me, that have shared with me, and they were probably scared too, but you know what? They put their hearts out there, I connected with them, and they made me feel brave. And so I view this as the same thing. I want my readers to go through the book and be like, I can't believe she just said that. I can't believe she just talked about that. I've been waiting for someone to address that. I'm so glad that she said something about this. This is going to give me courage to also write my story or to share my thoughts with the world. Something else is just realizing that there are limits, and I'm careful who I share with. There are things that I'm putting in the safety of a book because this thing is 250 pages and it's got context. You know, I wouldn't tweet every word in here because not everyone coming across my tweet on Twitter is going to understand the context, the story, where I'm coming from. But someone who's going to be devoted enough to read an entire book written by me, they're going to understand the backstory. They're going to understand where I'm coming from, and it's not going to be misworded or taken out of context as easily. And so I encourage you as well, put your right revelations, vulnerability in the right context and share it with the right people. Not everything goes out to everybody all the time, and that's okay. And then lastly, before sharing something really vulnerable with your family, with your friend circle, with the world, run it by people who know your soul. I have been so blessed to have a few soul sisters in my life that I've sent the manuscript to this, or I remember I sent them Now You Know, I sent them Under the Knife, I sent them the songs I was most nervous about, and I was like, is this okay? Does this look like my soul? Is this me being authentic and vulnerable? Is this valuable? Am I overstepping? Am I not coming across? Is this being an act of service? I asked them these things because these are my friends and they were honest and they know me. They're familiar with my work and they really reassured me this is the next right step. You've got this. And I would not have had the courage to release some of this content without them in my corner, cheering me on, telling me, Ariel, this is your time, do this, share this. And I want to encourage you to find those people who know your soul. And the way you get soul friends like that is you get vulnerable. So there are a few select people that I'm very open and honest with. They're very open and honest with me, and we support each other. It's a really beautiful thing. But if you don't have those relationships in your life, you're going to build them by sharing your story a little bit, by getting a little bit open. And that's a very powerful way to create those real human connections. So I hope that got you thinking about how you can be sharing more of your own journey with the world as an act of service, about how you can be upping the vulnerability without it coming back to haunt you the next day in the form of this crazy emotional hangover where you're like, what did I do? Thank you so much to all of you for your support and love on this journey. Thank you to my patrons who financed today's episode, made it a thing. So if you enjoyed today's episode, you can thank them in the comments below. I love you so much, and I'll see you next week. Oh my God, my book will be available for pre-order next week. I'm so excited. Okay, I'll see you then. Bye.